And now, live from Level 5 Productions on the island of Milleronia, it's The Larry Miller Show. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and everyone who wants to know how many moons Pluto has. Hi, folks, and welcome back to the Larry Miller Show. I'm Larry Miller, but in a way, aren't we all? And it is gorgeous here on Milleronia. Well, it always is, I know, and I know I've told you that I control the weather and, many other things, frankly. After all, it's Milleronia. And if you're going to name it after yourself, you should control things. But it's beautiful here, and we're here with the family. Everybody's here, including Colonel Jeff, of course. And we're here before we go back to the mainland to prepare for Thanksgiving. But we have great holidays here on Milleronia, too, by the way, and a great Thanksgiving. We make a great Thanksgiving, all the families on Milleronia. And, boy, there are some things. I'm going to talk about that later. What do we make, whether it's on Milleronia or on the mainland, and what do you make for Thanksgiving? But, boy, it means a lot. We're happy here, and the music, as always, makes me so happy. That's the Clyde Tombaugh Orchestra and the Ava Gardner Dancers, featuring boy tenor Don Riley, asking the musical question, what would Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo do? Cause your date to walk out on you. Just as the waitress was putting your main courses down on the table at the clam shack where you took her, Barbara, your very pretty date, realized, wow, she just didn't want to be with you anymore. And put on her coat, walked out without a word, actually ran out and hailed a cab. Now, here's the interesting thing. Colonel Jeff and I, what would Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo do? You have great questions, Don. And Colonel Jeff and I had no idea what it was or what it meant. And he looked it up on the internet, found out it was in the movie Cinderella, when the fairy godmother was magically turning the pumpkin into a beautiful coach and the mice into horses, and the fairy godmother sang it all the way, oh boy, with a chorus, and we listened to it, he and I, and smiled, and still had no clue. That's not an exaggeration, just it was a giant what the? But all this tells me it was a great question. Good work, Don. That's right, all of these factors, don't know what it is, what it means. So, the truth is, what would Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo do? Get you a great date with one of Cinderella's sisters. That's right, and by the way, Don, never mind that Barbara running out. She didn't have the depth you were looking for. But Cinderella's really beautiful sister, I don't mean the ones you know from the story. Not the mean ones, the ugly ones who just were trying to trip her up every chance they had. But they were so jealous and so vicious. They had another sister who was beautiful. They kept locked in a whole other part of the little cottage there. And that's the date we're going to get for you. So, you know what? Good work, good question. What would Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo do? Get you the date you always wanted, Don. And by PayPal. That's right, PayPal. Still, oh boy, one of the greatest companies we know, PayPal. You know what? If you're looking to help our show, and why wouldn't you be? And if you want to send us some money to help out, and why wouldn't you? Wow, go to PayPal. You know, you can get there 100 different ways, but go our way. Go to our website, LarryMillerPodcast.com. Who's on the mountain? Tom Mix. Oh, boy. Lucky that happened before Thanksgiving. At any rate, though, you know what? Yes. Go to PayPal. And I always love, instead of saying, whoa, give it the platinum level, or, oh, boy, send this amount in. I keep it simple. Get us some drinks. There are 5 levels, 1 through 5, all the way up to...
We're driving to Florida!
By the way, that's what Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo would do. Scream, yeah! At that moment. Do that, though. Go to PayPal, and I know it for sure. You'll be glad you did. And that brings me to my favorite part of the show, the joke of the week. And this is a good one. The Colonel and I like this very, very much. I hope you do too. There are 2 older fellas sitting on a park bench, and they're chatting as they always do every day. And one of them says, hey, wait a minute, I have to tell you this. I just got a brand new hearing aid. It's the best I've ever had. It's so good. I'm telling you, this one was made by the greatest audiologist in our whole country. And once a year, you put the battery in, and it'll cost me $5,000. I'm telling you, it's the best. And his friend says, well, really? What kind is it? And the guy says, oh, about 3 o'clock. There are, as I've told you before, and you already know, there are many different kinds of good jokes, and there's none better than, well, silliness. Silliness just tickles me no end, and the Colonel feels the same way. And I hope you did too. I think that's a pretty good one, and so does he. And that was sent in by listener Jeff Sawyer. Thanks, Jeff. Oh, boy. Nothing better than a good laugh. Pass that one around, folks. And that brings me to my second favorite part of the show, the Poetry Corner. That's nice, by the way. I always love that string quartet, but maybe we'll find something. I keep thinking of Thanksgiving. What would be a good theme for Thanksgiving, a good theme song? Who knows? Maybe we'll find it. And I say that, by the way, I say that generously because that means Colonel Jeff will find it. So it's not like he and I are going to spend some time going through volumes on my shelves here. But you know what? This is a good one. There's nothing better than a good poem. And this one is by the great Robert Frost. He's one of my favorites, maybe my favorite completely. He was born in San Francisco, and then the family moved to Lawrence, Massachusetts. He taught and lectured at my old school, Amherst College, from, many years, through the teens and during World War I, and then in the 20s many times, and then more in the 50s as a lecturer. You know what? God bless him, he was always great. And this is a poem he wrote called Stars by Robert Frost. How countlessly they congregate o'er our tremendous snow, which flows in shapes as tall as trees when wintry winds do blow. As if with keenness for our fate, our faltering few steps on, to white rest and a place of rest, invisible at dawn. And yet with neither love nor hate, those stars like some snow-white Minerva's snow-white marble eyes without the gift of sight. Isn't that lovely, Frost? God bless him. What a great wordsmith. What a great poet. And he's written some of mine that are still favorites I've talked about before, and I've read a couple too, like Stopping by a Woods on a Snowy Eve. These are wonderful things. Do a favor for yourself. Get yourself a book, a collection of Robert Frost poems. They'll be in any bookstore. I mean, they could be in they don't have to be in just the fanciest bookstores. They'll be all over the place. Get yourself one. You'll be glad you did. And that brings me to my third favorite part of the show, the Magic Movie Moment. This is one of my favorite movies of all time, Mogambo, from 1953, directed by the great John Ford, and starring, what a cast, Clark Gable, Ava Gardner, Donald Sinden, Philip Stainton, and someone named Grace Kelly. And I just got cute there with that a little bit because I've mentioned this before more than once, and in so many other movies. Grace Kelly, what a great star. Wonderful actress, a great talent, and someone, good Lord, so beautiful. And she fit in with everyone in the movies, but someone you really do just want to say, look, I'll tell you what, just let me hold your hand and look at you for a few minutes, okay? So at any rate, this is a terrific movie, folks. And this is about, well, Philip Marswell. He's the big hunter and safari leader in the, well, I think it's from the 1930s, roughly, that the time is supposed to be. And he's everyone, all the aristocrats from England, all the aristocrats from all over the place. And so many Americans were saying they wanted to go on a safari. They called for Philip Marswell. And in this movie, the great Philip Marswell, the greatest hunter and safari leader in the whole world at that time, really well known. He was the star of all those guys and all aristocrats in England and France and all over America always asked for him. They wanted to go on a safari. They said, get us Victor Marswell. We've got to be with him. And John Ford, can he tell a story? And as I said, Clark Gable, well, that's Victor Marswell. And if you don't like that, by the way, I can't help you in movies. When Clark Gable is the star of something, and this time, folks, well, Ava Gardner, and playing Kelly, is just great. She was going to Africa to hunt around with a big fancy boyfriend of her own who didn't show up. The guy just, he blew her off. And that's what happened in those days, even by beautiful young women like Ava Gardner. So she hooked up and got onto Marswell's safari, which, by the way, this is in French Equatorial Africa, whatever that means. I don't know about you, but the way these things were divided, and you know what? She hooks on with him there, and they're in the middle. This is jungle stuff, meaning this wasn't something that had fancy places. You really got a feel from this movie of that's what it was. And as Colonel Jeff pointed out, you want to see a mosquito the size of a Volkswagen? This is where you went. And, oh, boy, and then, so we're watching, as the audience, you see, well, Ava Gardner, for crying out loud, she's such a great actress, and she's so beautiful. And, well, she's American, too, like Clark Gable. All these things add up to you. And then the Nordleys come from England, this married couple, and that is Donald Sinden and Grace Kelly. And she's not so thrilled with him anymore. I didn't even know this till I read the description today. I've seen this movie 24 times, and I love it. But Grace Kelly comes in, and they're making a documentary about gorillas. You know, just like you and me. But that's what they did in those days. He was a professor of this or that, and they were going to make this documentary. So they hired Victor Marswell to take them around, to take them where he knew to go. And, well, Grace Kelly sees, Clark Gable. What do you think's going to happen there? Nothing right off the bat. And it's a great story told so well, and there's a magic movie moment in it for me. The leader, Gable, Victor Marswell, is going to take them, on safari. And he's got this, Philip Stainton is his fella who plays his number 2 guy on these groups. And he's wonderful to watch. He's tough and smart and really knows how to defend. He's fierce, but smart about it. He's very knowledgeable. And they go through a village they want to get the permission so they can go on their safari. And who knows whose land this is, that is. It's, to get the permission that he's done. And he finds out as they go in that the chief says he has to be a target again, a spear target, to sort of pass the test, to be able to go, to get his permission. And then it's a great moment. Gable says, what, again? Because he's done this many times with this village and this chief. And he's, all right. And Gable is just so tough. He's great. And as I say, tough. He doesn't go, whoa, what the? They stand him up against a kind of a wall of, well, vines and roots and things. And he's standing there, and he's got his hands on his hips, and he stands there. He's not scared. And the chief has 5 or 6 of his big warriors stand a ways away. And this is a way away from him. This is 50 feet, 80 feet, and they all have spears. And the idea is, the competition is, that they all, one at a time, just rear back, take a couple of steps, and boom, throw that spear right at Victor Marswell, and to get as close as they can to killing him, to his head, to his body. And the first one just flings it. And these things, as you can imagine, it's really shot so well by John Ford. Each one lets go of this thing, and you go, wow, it seems like 25 miles an hour, and it shunk, and Gable doesn't move an inch, and goes right into, I think this is right side first, right by his head, and right by, just above his shoulder. I mean, this is the real thing. And of course, everyone else there, he's going on safari with they're shaking in their boots. They're quaking. And then the second warrior goes, and he did step, boom, he flings that thing, and bam, once again, right into the left side, just above the shoulder, just to the left of the ear. I mean, phew, whoa. And Gable, the same thing, doesn't move an inch. And then the third guy comes, and these warriors, as you imagine, aren't kidding around. And this third one throws it, flung, he goes so fast. And at that point, Gable, because he can tell, he just knows, he quickly ducks out of the target range, and that spear goes right where his head was. And no one blames Gable, by the way. Not the chief, not any of the people in the village, because they know, well, he'd be dead now. And to them, remember, they're laughing. This is fun. The warriors are ha-ha, laughing, not because they almost killed him, but this is fun. And the chief, the same way, a little on the heavyset side, as chiefs tended to be. And everyone else is laughing. Okay, so the point is that at that moment, they know they passed the test. Gable's done this before. They got close to him before. They almost killed him before. Ha, ha, ha. So they're not laughing. But everyone else, it's hysterical for them. They laugh. And now they can go through the village and into guerrilla country. Folks, it's a great movie. You should see this. But I'm telling you, boy, oh boy, at that moment, that's when you know this Victor Marswell is not kidding. And this is a tough guy, and a guy who should be the leader. And he is the leader. Now, he's not so tough, mean tough. He's not like motorcycle gang tough. Not that kind of tough. But he knows what he's doing. And he knows where he's going. And he knows how to get there. And he'll be fine now until the next time he has to go through that village. It's a wonderful movie. Mogambo, from 1953, directed by John Ford, starring Clark Gable, Ava Gardner, Donald Sinden, Philip Stainton, and Grace Kelly. Terrific movie. If you haven't seen it, see it. If you've seen it like me 24 times, see it again. You'll be glad. You'll be glad you did. So I've mentioned Thanksgiving already, and you know Thanksgiving's coming, for goodness sake, and I hope you love it because it's one of our great holidays. It doesn't matter what church or temple you go to. Nothing matters. This is very American, and it comes from the pioneer days, and it comes from the American past. And it's all true that the Indians at the time decided, well, way on the East Coast there, because the Pilgrims weren't doing well. They hadn't grown any food. They couldn't hunt for this or that. And the Indians essentially came and said, you know what? On this day, we'll bring food. We'll all eat together. And it's a very meaningful thing. And it should be for you and me. And I just wanted to talk about, by the way, for the food. It's something we don't think about very much. I want to go right up the middle on this. Food, turkey. Yes. Not, turkey? What do you mean turkey? I mean turkey. A real turkey. A big turkey. A turkey that you put in the oven and make and baste. You know, you don't need, never mind meatloaf or tofu or turducken. No chicken apple sausage. It's Thanksgiving, folks. Don't think about it. Don't yak about it. Just put a sock in it and toss in a turkey. And that's what, boy, oh boy, what food is better than that? Turkey right up the middle. And cook it just right. Vegetables, green beans, and carrots. That's it. See, this is actually, in a way, it's easy. Well, what about, broccoli? No, forget it. Just a couple. Green beans, carrots. You're done. Put those in the oven, get those, chop them up, do whatever you want, but just do it. You don't even have to chop anything. Leave the green beans whole. Steam them up. Potatoes, yes. Mashed potatoes. Well, what about if no, forget it. Mashed potatoes. Get a loaf of bread, and here's the big question. What else? Nothing. That's it. There's no what else. Ask a couple of your guests coming to someone, just a couple. Someone bakes a pumpkin pie. Someone bakes a pecan pie. And again, that's it. Ask a couple of people to bake a pumpkin pie and a pecan pie. And again, that's it. You don't need, sure, you can get some Cool Whip. And if you want to go crazy, fine. You know what? Sure, you can make it if you want. If you want to go even crazier. But that's it. Get some liquor. You can do this. Stock up on liquor and beer and, okay, yes, wine. Fine. But that's it. What you do is get that wonderful Norman Rockwell painting of Thanksgiving and realize that's it. Make it like that. Can you smile like them? I hope you can, because that's what you should be doing. And, well, you know what? I've saved the best for last in a way. What about stuffing? What have we done with stuffing? I swear I don't understand. There's a wonderful woman, Ree Drummond, who's a writer and, everything. She's a host, a lecturer, and she's married and she lives on the Drummond Ranch. She has her own TV show on the Food Channel. She's terrific, and the family is terrific. The kids are great. The father's great. And this is a real ranch. I mean, this is a no-kidding-around ranch. So they always say, what's going on the ranch? Ranching and moving cattle around. Well, we got to brand the cattle. And they always bring the kids. The kids do it. And then Ree's making a great thing. And she had on, this was last night, she said, what about stuffing? And she said, this year I'm going to put in some Brussels sprouts and just cut them in half. And then I'll put in some kind of feral thing, something with an F. Whatever it is, she said, these are so good. And I was almost yelling at the TV, stop it. Stop it. It's enough. You have enough vegetables. You know what? It's not a vegetable holiday anyway. What you do is stuffing, bake stuffing. Well, like that Rockwell painting, bake that stuffing. Make it. What do you put in it? Well, cornbread, sourdough, one, all, two things, three things. It doesn't have to be big. Doesn't have to be big pieces of bread. Sort of like an inch cube, that's too big. Slice them up, small pieces, small things of bread. Cook them up, butter them up, fry them up, bake them up, whatever you do. But then you make it stuffing. Nothing in it, stuffing. I always like, every so often I get to have grits in a great place down south, and there are places that can make them really well. And I always say, you know what? Can you do me a favor? Can you just take them out of the pot and put them in a bowl? I mean, I don't need anything in them. I don't need onions. I don't need mushrooms. I don't need anything else. You want gravy? Nothing. Just the grits. Okay? I like grits. It's the same thing with stuffing. Folks, make some stuffing and serve that. Bring that out in a huge bowl, a big punch bowl, and What's that? It's the stuffing. Put it in the turkey to bake. You want to do that? Fine. It's stuffing. Don't put anything else in it. Make it moist. Make it, sure, damp, wet, like gravy-ish. And if anyone says, well, why is it this moist? Because it's stuffing. You don't want it dry. You don't want it where you have to eat it with like a soup spoon, because it's too dry. Make moist, wet, delicious stuffing. And you know what? Maybe someone will make a painting out of you someday. And, well, the big news to me is, and I just found out today, and Colonel Jeff and I were talking about it, that Pluto is back to being Pluto. Well, not 100%, but it's a step in the right direction. I say that, as you know, at the end of every show. Homer is Homer, and Pluto is a planet. And that's what I remember reading years ago. Well, some scholars are saying now Homer may be several people who wrote that. No, he's not. He's Homer, all right? He wrote those stories. He wrote that poetry. Homer is Homer. That's why I put in the great Clyde Tombaugh's name in the beginning, because he was the astronomer in 1930 who discovered Pluto. And he deserves to have, well, there's a huge area on Pluto. I mean, a huge area, like the size of South America. And that it's named now Tombaugh, after him. And it should be. I don't know why these folks do these things. That's in 2006. Well, Pluto's not a planet anymore. Yes, it is. Stupid. It is a planet. There are three things that the International Astronomical Union says are required to make a planet, to describe a planet. One is it's a sphere. Now, it doesn't have to be circular. There's no circular planet. Our planet, Earth, is not circular. They're all a little bit egg-like. And nothing is. Saturn isn't. Jupiter isn't. Nothing is. Well, you know what? So leave Pluto alone. It's as circular as anything gets. And, well, there are 3 layers of its atmosphere. No other planets have that. Neptune doesn't have that. Jupiter doesn't have that. Nothing has that. Pluto does. It's a real atmosphere with 3 layers. There are mountains, and there are plains, and by the way, they have oceans with water. Actual water. Nobody else has that. We do. But no one else. So leave Pluto alone. Well, what about the moons? They have moons. Other planets don't have moons. They do. Some of them do. Sure, there are moons on Saturn and Jupiter, and we have a moon. Well, so does Pluto. What do they have? 2 moons? 3 moons there? It's a planet. And then the third qualification was that its orbit has to be clear of other objects to be a planet. Asteroids, big, small, whatever. Pluto has those. And there's nothing to be. So do we, by the way. So does Earth. So do other planets. Pluto has them. So is it not 100% clear? No one is. Leave Pluto alone and shut up. And you know what? Today, well, last week, from NASA, Jim Bridenstine, the head of the administration there, says in a press conference, Pluto is a planet. He said, I'm going on the line, as I have before, to let you know Pluto is a planet. Stop everyone, and he listed a couple of these things. And you know what? It doesn't mean that all the knuckleheads in the world will finally agree. People don't agree on things most of the time. You know that. But stop it. Pluto is a planet. And why don't we just leave everyone else alone? Leave it there. And it's a planet like Neptune. Are there other gigantic things a zillion miles away past them? In our galaxy and in the solar system? Well, sure, but so what? That doesn't mean that they're not something. We have 9 planets, and Pluto is number 9. Leave them alone. And thank you, Jim Bridenstine. from NASA. You know what? It's a step in the right direction, and so is Pluto. And that's what I know. And once again, you know what I know, and I know what you know. Homer is Homer, and Pluto is a planet. So remember, folks, as always, if you walked out of bed today and had a job to go to and a home to come back to, and someone there who cares about you, oh, folks, the game's over and you've won. So be well, and remember, we have 9 planets. We'll see you here next time.